Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course, the best medicine of them all. Reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course, discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Groove with Portia. I am your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep it with the latest and greatest of all with Groove with Portia. So one of the things that I often have to remind myself is to dedicate time to play. How many of us have given ourselves the permission and the space throughout our busy day to play and connect with that inner 9-year-old, 10-year-old? A few weeks ago, I shared in my Instagram and Facebook story that my boyfriend has introduced me to Legos. So we've been building a Porsche 911, which is one of the projects that we've done. But the beauty of that is, number one, I'm satisfying something within my childhood that I never got to really explore. And number two is that quality time that I'm grateful for that I can spend with him. So how many of us are giving ourselves that space and that time to do that throughout the week? Let that sink in. So today I am joined by an individual who I happen to meet through the Diamond Beauties Experts community. She's also one of my strong supporters of Grew with Portia. She is the author of Begin Within. She's also a spiritual psychotherapist, and also she goes by the acronym WEIRDO, which she will share with us shortly. So welcome to Grew with Portia, Miss Christianna Carr. Christianna, how are you?
Oh, thank you, Portia. I'm so happy to be here and ready to groove with you. Yeah, I love you. I love the show, and I do share it as much as I can when I see it. And yeah, weirdo, wonderful, individual, exuberantly reflecting divine originality. Yeah, that's me, and I think we're all weirdos. So that's you too. That's our expressions. Yeah, and I switched the I and the E because that's weirdo me.
And that's unique to you, right? It still spells it. And my soul mother, Dawn, shout out to my soul mother, Dr. Dawn Earhart Whitty. She told me this quote before, that when somebody says that you're weird, take it as a compliment. Because, and I have the same thing with my friends, right? When, we know that we're all a little twisted and demented depending on our circle of friends that we're around, but there's something truly natural and authentic about owning your inner weird. But we'll go into that in another segment. Christianna, we are, it makes me think of that song by, is it Radiohead, Creep? I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. That's what makes me think.
I love that one.
For our audience, as I brought up in the beginning, you are the author of Begin Within, which is a book. Yes, please show it to our audience if they want to get it at some point. This book is a culmination of poetry, right? And as I brought up in the beginning, how many of us have disconnected from that creative path because we got busy with life, with work, all the above? Christianna, can you share with our audience what that word or phrase begin within means to you? How did that become a part of your everyday?
Wow. It's just something that I do naturally. And this is actually my logo for my business, Begin Within Gifts, Books, and Healing Services, that have been slow and steady building. I've got the place, and there's been lots of mess going on with it, but we keep growing. But Begin Within, I was at an I Could Do It conference in about 2010. And I saw Robert Holden, an author from Hay House, and he was up. He was the last speaker on the last day. And my intention when I was volunteering at that was to come out with the name for my business, because I've been dreaming about my little metaphysical shop and library and, eclectic shop with art and displaying the art for my family, the creativeness. But now I'd love to do like the family, the local artists, and especially our indigenous and First Nations. I'd love to highlight those actual, true, authentic pieces. But to Begin Within Robert Holden was wearing a t-shirt, and all it said on there was begin within. And those words just
Mm.
kind of glowed out to me. And I went up and I got his autograph on my volunteer t-shirt. And I asked him if it was trademark, and he said no. So I went home and I registered my business, Begin Within. And then the logo came years later. So this is my hand-drawn logo. So I've taken business startups and things like that. So I kept hearing branding, branding, branding. So I've been passing out business cards for about, well, since 2011, since I got to Begin Within. So before I had the physical space and everything. And then I started doing little videos, and I did the physical, the spiritual psychotherapy with the spiritual director. I'm not registered or anything, but I got the full professional
Mhm.
training with that. I am a certified family mediation. So, family mediator, certification in family mediation. I just did that in 24. I got my certificate for that. So it's just keep growing, and I keep doing that stuff. I'm looking within, what can I do. I was raised like, no matter what anybody says or whatever, even if they hold a gun to your head, nobody can make you do anything. You always have a choice. So in some ways it was like that took away from, oh, so and so made me do it, oh, it was their idea, because it was, well, even if they held a gun to your head, you still had a choice. You chose to do it. So I always look within myself and go, what choices or what did I do that led me here? What did I, put aside of myself, or did I, go against my integrity to follow along with this one, or those kinds of things. So that's what it means to me, that begin within. Everything, all healing, everything begins within ourselves, our homes, our neighborhoods, our communities, and it just kind of ripples out from there. But I believe it all begins within. And I like to say, when each in divide you all, we're in divide, becomes in divine you all. And so we're all
Mm.
responsible to begin within, to become our fully, holy, individual selves, no matter what we believe in and call it. I like to say it doesn't matter to me as long as it's all loving too. It just doesn't matter to me what you believe. It's as long as it's all loving too. Myself, I like to say, sweet Jesus, God, all my loving relations.
Christiana, first of all, I love how conferences and experiences there, you just need to meet one person that plants that seed. And literally, that's what it was for you. Seeing
Yeah.
that phrase, asking the question, is this trademarked or registered? Oh, that was the door opening for you, the key being handed to you of the permission slip, right? And
Yeah.
Christiana, I'm curious, how has your poetry been shaped also around this begin within? Because let's be realistic. A lot of people, the same thing when we experience grief or loss, they go the
Mhm.
opposite direction because that is the societal narrative expectation. So I'm curious,
Yes.
how have you integrated and incorporated that notion into your everyday and into your poetry, considering the societal pressure to do the opposite?
Wow. Well, I've always been more of an introvert, and I do have a neurodiverse brain after my 22-year-old was diagnosed as a child. So I found out that autism and ADHD. So, okay, that makes, I'm like, oh, I'm not as unique as I thought I was. And that's okay. But it's just something that I did naturally. It takes me some time to process. I learned about journaling really young. So then it was just always writing in my journals. Sometimes that kind of fell off because boyfriends or whatever would use them against me, or
Mm.
my cousins or little brothers would be getting into it and then ratting me out to my parents. So there was a while, and then some of them had warnings, you come into this, I'm gonna rip your head off, and those kinds of things, me being this nice little peaceful angel. And I got these threats if they go any further in my journals. But that's something that's always been, it's just been a part of me. And then the poetry just kind of comes out, and I don't even mean to sometimes. Like when I'm talking, it just comes out, and like, oh, you're a poet and didn't know it, like I just rhyme all the time, just, and I don't even realize it. Sometimes it's not rhyming. And this was actually a challenge with Bookleaf Publishing. They put out a 21 days of poetry challenge. So this was, I picked out 21 of my poems and just put them in there. But this is from my healing process too, growing through toxic relationship and post separation abuse and things that are still going on currently. It's kind of like a lifeline, as well as these groups and meeting beautiful soul sisters. And because my life just kind of cleared out, and the people that I thought I could trust turned out that I couldn't. So the poetry just helped me kind of get that out. And I know that I'm not the only one, right? But you don't know who's going to help unless you put it out there. So this was kind of like showing me that I could do it. There's another book that I'm working on that'll go deeper into abuse and things like that, and it's called "I Wish He Would Have Just Hit Me." And
Mm,
I'm looking to collect stories to weave them together, because it doesn't matter race, religion, creed, man, woman, sexuality, whatever it is. There's abuse in all. Abuse is abuse is abuse, and there's no excuse for it. And a lot of times, most of it isn't even where you can see it. It's
right.
those wounds deep inside. And there's so many women's circles and stuff that I've been in where they said, "I wish he would have just hit me." And I felt that myself. And it's not just from him, but I had other people as well that I'm like, okay, if you hit me, then it's obvious that, you're
Right.
abusing. So it's not just that it's not obvious to the outside, it's not obvious to us either, because it's that slow, insidious, just picking away. And I found that journaling really helped me. And I recommend that to anybody in those situations to help keep that sanity, because we know this happened. Writing down things. And it's not to prove to anybody, but just for our own selves to keep. And that's what kind of helped me keep a little bit of sanity going. Okay, when I'm looking back at these journals, and I don't burn them, I've kept them, and it helps me see how far I've grown. And I can look back at them and going, okay, that's still triggering me. There's still something there. Or I go, wow, I've come a long way that I can't even relate to who wrote that, who was me. But it's so I've grown from that, and I know where I still need to work on. But then also when they're doing that gaslighting and things like that too, where they're making you doubt yourself and stuff like that, that also helps, or saying that didn't happen, you're just imagining things. Well, I wrote it down, I've documented it, so here it is. And that's something with what I've been through right now, because of doing all that journaling from the relationship that I'm been just and still trying to break free from. I've got it right from the start. Oh, we decided to date. And then you can see how it transitions and the change in that writing, and how we end up turning it on ourselves. Oh, if I hadn't said it this way, if I didn't look that way, oh, it's because I was tired and whatever. I'm taking it all on myself of how he is treating me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just so I do have a website that I set up if anybody wants to send stories and share stories. I'm not going to name anybody in there. I just want to bring stories on how, it's like they can go to a school or something, they get scripts, and I'd be sitting in these circles and going, were we dating the same guy? Like, what, he said the same thing, he did the same thing, or things like that, right? Or again, men get that too. And I really love to help the men as well. So I wish he would have just hit me at gmail.com is the email that I've set up for that. I did that last year. So it's a slow and steady process, a slow and steady process. And I'm going to work my journals in there and everything. And then I want to add other people's stories just to illustrate how it doesn't matter what walk of life or whatever, that it affects us all. It's definitely not discriminatory. Abuse isn't
Right.
discriminatory.
Right. Gaslighting is real on both sides. Uh,
And
uh,
smaller and the macro, yeah.
yeah, and it's subtle, as you brought up.
Yeah.
It's that grooming. It starts off,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you didn't see that. That's not what you heard, but you know
Yes,
what you did see. You know what you felt. You know what your gut was saying to you when it was hurting and uncomfortable. And it wasn't the butterflies like you're nervous, it's the butterflies like something really isn't right.
exactly. Yes, yes.
And
Yeah.
and those are the things too, Christiane. And I'm glad that you're shedding light on this, because I think so many people are ashamed about
Yeah.
the narcissistic or abusive relationships that they've been in. As women, we're expected to just take it. I'm not going to go into the relationship that women have with anger based on the societal standard. We're not allowed to be angry. And then also learning to reach out for help. I love how you brought up that we start to blame ourselves. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have reached out to Annie about what was going on. Then maybe things would still be kosher, cool, calm, and collective. Or maybe I
Mm,
shouldn't have called my mom and had her on speakerphone where he overheard all of the conversation. Right.
yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there's slowly this shift, and I'm glad, Christiana, that you're part of the wave of authentic people, wave of brave souls that want to make this change, that want to help other people let go of the shame and guilt that they have about where they've come from. Because I
Yes.
think that's the beautiful part with what you've taken with Begin Within. You began within with all the things that you've survived, all the things that you've conquered. And this is your blueprint and roadmap that you're gifting to the world to help others who have been in your same shoes and same boat. I'm going to
Yeah.
pivot a little bit, Christiana, and I normally don't do this, but I am. If you don't mind, please share with our audience one of your poems from Begin Within.
All right. Do you want to pick from 1 to
You can
21?
pick, pick number 19.
Okay. Number 19. Well, there we go. Short and sweet like me. It's on page 42. 19. Worthy to receive.
Mm,
All right. I still believe, no matter how hard I grieve. Perfect. All the love I give freely, I am worthy also to receive. One day it will come pouring into me. Then I will see it was worth it to stay open and believe.
mm. That part, everybody, of I am worthy to receive. The love energy that you give out to the world, you're worthy of receiving it back. And I shared this, Christiana, with a few friends of mine recently that I went on my social media and started unfollowing and unfriending a lot of people because the
Mm-hmm.
reciprocity isn't there. Right. And I would rather put myself in a room, even if it's small, with 10 people who see me, than being a room of 100 people where my name isn't even visible.
Yes.
Right. So,
Yes.
really being
Yeah.
intentional with the spaces that I occupy, the people who I'm around.
Yeah.
Christiana, for our audience who's tuning in, if there's a man or a woman out there who really wants to start beginning within where they are, and let's be realistic, vulnerability is also looked at as a double edged sword in society, where
Mm-hmm.
men tend to get more of a pass, depending on what the subject is, than women with vulnerability. How can they do that today to start unpacking the guilt, the shame of where they came from, and find that inner strength in knowing that their story can grant others permission to start to heal because they took that first step?
Check in and check up. That's what I always say
Mm,
because I'm here by the grace of God that keeps me going. His strength is made great in my weakness. So having that higher power, knowing that we're not alone, we don't do it on our own. We're not all self-made. We don't choose people's actions, but we can choose whether we're putting up with it, putting up and shut up or whatever. And I love how you said that filtering out, when there's no reciprocity. Like I love that saying that says we can't blame people for sucking the life out of us if we keep giving them the straw. So it's
mm,
recognizing that in ourselves and finding those safe spaces where you can talk, where you do feel seen, and not where somebody says, I see you, but where the actions back their actions back what their words. It's not just saying, and it's trusting in that. And for me it was like, how can I trust anybody? I'm not going to be able to date till my kids are all grown up, because if I can't trust this one, then how am I going to trust anybody? But the thing is that I don't really need to trust in myself when I check in and check up first, and I listen to my God-given gifts and those signals in our bodies, because our bodies will let us know. They'll literally kind of repel from people, and they'll literally feel drawn more towards people that are safe. But there's a little hook in there, because when we go through abuse and things like that, we just look for that familiar. So for me, it's like, no, if it's familiar, okay, I'm going to go with something else, right? Because familiar, my family wasn't always safe there,
Mm,
right? And it's,
mm.
again, you're around a lot of people, but I'm not feeling seen unless I'm like putting myself out there. So even in my family, but it's looking at that in yourself, check in and check up and find those safe spaces to talk. Me, I went through women's resource centers, and that's why I'd like to put out there for men too, because there isn't as many resources for men in abusive situations as there is for women. And there is so many resources for us women out there. Still needs to be more, but this is, find those safe spaces to share in, because that's a lot of time that trauma comes after, when if you're talking to the wrong person. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have told that person, or somebody that maybe they're caught in a relationship themselves, and then you end up keeping each other in those longer instead of encouraging each other to leave. Or so yeah, I think resource centers, find a safe counselor that's trauma informed, because a lot of times more damage is done when we're trying to share those stories. And our strength is in our vulnerability. And it's great to be in circles. I love my traditional women's circles. That's what I did. And then so you see that you're not alone. So
Mm-hmm.
having little groups and things like that, just getting out there, if it's online groups, whatever, where you feel safe, that's the most important thing, is to feel safe, to feel seen. And 95% of healing happens just in having your story witnessed, to heard,
Yes.
without judgment. That starts that healing, like 95%. So that's the biggest thing, because silence is abuse's biggest ally. It's getting it out in
Mm,
those safe ways. Oh, I'm getting tingles all up and down. But find those safe places. It's just start with little bits in little safe places, and just let it just kind of flow. And it's not fast. Again, we don't have to prove anything. We're not out here to prove anything. It's just being ourselves, knowing that we're human. And when we share, that helps others, right? I love that other
100%.
saying. It says, sharing our sorrows lessens them, sharing our joys multiplies them. So when we hear others and we're sharing our sorrows, it makes them less, because we're not feeling so alone in it. So it kind of
Mm-hmm.
lessens them. But when we share those joys, of course that energy expands, and then of course that joy grows. So I love that one. It's sharing your story. That's how we begin within, share it. And even if it starts with just writing it down, it's still getting out. Better out than
Right.
in. Better
Right.
out than
Oh,
in.
and that goes for more than one thing. And I want to add to
Right. That's what
Christiana
I used
to
to tell
what
my
you
kids in their diapers.
I want to add too also that when you're looking for a therapist or a counselor or someone who is trauma informed, also take the extra step and ask them if they have real experience. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I'm not going to go too deep on that today,
Bingo.
but I think the world is changing where people are wanting someone who has actually walked in this same boat. I don't
Yes.
want to
Yes.
hear any more about how much education you have. I want to know, have you walked this path just like me? And what
Yes.
did you do to get out of it? So,
Yes.
Christiana, first
Absolutely.
of all, thank you again for coming on. We're going to be wrapping up here soon. But before we conclude our conversation for today, Christiana, I'm sure that there's going to be individuals who want to connect with you, get a copy of Begin Within, also possibly participate in your new book, I Wish He Would Have Just Hit Me. Please share with our audience how they can connect with you.
Well, I wish he would have just hit me at gmail.com. So you can just send an email to that. Begin within gifts.com. I'm still working on that website, but I'm working at it. I'm working at it. Slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady. She grows. And I'm on the YouTube at Begin Within Guidance with Wingishni Bay Majeki Kwe. That's my spirit name. It's Sweetgrass Water Medicine Woman. I call myself your friendly and free Sweetgrass Water Medicine Woman. And on the YouTubes, I do the Daily Crumb. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just it's a thing with little self-care cards. And I have medicine cards and sacred paths. So it's a suggestion for self-care, and then the medicine from an animal. And that's just like we look at their lives and, what they, those kinds of things. And then the paths that we all go down. So it's like life lessons. It's not like divination. It's just kind of like looking at ourselves and a way to begin within and do that self-care. And I started that as my self-care. So I'm on the tickety tockety sweetgrass H2O at the Daily Crumb. And then I started another channel on the YouTube just called Crumbs, a Begin Within Journey. So those are my three. And then I'm on the Facebook, of course, too. So I'm trying to get a little bit more out there, the online presence, but I'm an in-person kind of person. So if you're in the Peterborough area in Ontario, Canada, that's where I'm from. I will be doing my business here.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, everybody, you heard Christianna. You can find her on TikTok, YouTube, obviously Facebook. We'll also put her contact info in the show notes. If you forget, you can do a Google search. Obviously, Google is your friend. Well, everybody, that was the author of Begin Within, Miss Christianna Carr, that you heard from today on Grew with Portia. And that concludes our conversation for today. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease, everyone.